All of these talks, and what I see is that everyone's stolen my thunder. So that's okay. I've got plenty to talk about. One of the things I was wondering if anyone knew the importance of not being able to count. Okay, let's just put it this way. How many people think that 1 is greater than 0? Put your hand up. I'm one of them. Is 1 greater than 0? Is 42,000 greater than 0? Yes, okay. You are hopeless. I went and saw some politicians and I asked them about the 42,000 deaths from the 100,000 odd overdoses of opiates. And the 42,000 deaths, they said, wasn't a problem, but the 1 million overdoses of cannabis with 0 deaths was. This is what we're facing, guys. This is what we're facing. Everyone has to start getting braver. If you don't get brave, you're in trouble. Now, I was busted in 2014 with 3 times this amount of broom in here under lights in my factory. I was supplying the whole of the East Coast with cannabis oil. They came in and I've been so bloody waiting for them to come because I knew they were coming. You can't hide it. Can you hide good news? No. So if you treat somebody and they end up, their whole family knows, and then the kids at school know, and then, God, the people in the RSL know, you know, you're really stuffed. Anyway, they came to the door and they said, Mr. Lee, we hear that you're growing cannabis in this facility. I said, not only that, but it is the best cannabis that you will ever see. Come and have a look at this. So I took them in and they went through everything. They wanted to know about tab tickets, white powders. Was I anywhere near the bikies? You know, what was I? Who was I? So they went through everything. They found that I was living very frugally, but I could have made around about $30,000 a week. But I was living, I did get a feed every now and again because I did have a survey business which I was running, as well as this I was doing on my spare time, and I didn't have much spare time, I can tell you. But this oil was going out every week to these different places. I shouldn't tell you who they were, but it was in Newcastle. And when they came and they put me on 2 days a week, I had to go and report to the police. So I started telling them about all the things that I knew. And every day I would get there at 6 o'clock in the morning before they turned the computer on, and they would get to know me because I was the only criminal who turned up at 6 o'clock in the morning. They said there was a traffic jam at 11. Yeah. So anyway, I talked to them. I went to the doctors and I said, do you know anything about medical cannabis? They rolled their eyes at me when I said, we've got an internal cannabis system called an endocannabinoid system. They rolled their eyes. Why? I'm not a professional. All I've done is studied it for bloody 35 years and been pushing cannabis as a medicine for a long, long time. I did start out as a cowboy, all right? I was no bloody medicine man when I first started out. The hills were alive with cannabis. Don't worry about that, which I tried to sell. Got ripped off all the bloody time, but, you know, this is the way it is. So once I figured out that it was a medicine, and I only figured that out after my mother died of cancer of the pancreas. The most disgusting disease you will ever see. You go from being big and strong and healthy down to a skeleton, and then slowly the life just ebbs away. This had a huge effect on me. And I worked hard to try and save her. And I had no show. The doctors had no idea. I had no idea. But 2 years later, I went to see my mate Dave, who was the smartest man I've ever met, still to this day. And I gave him 20 books from the University of California, which I'd read. I said, read this, please, Dave. And he read them in a week, because he was a speed reader, remembered everything. And he said, yes, Malcolm, you're right, it is a medicine. And that was 2 years after my mother died. And we were making bloody hash in the concrete mixer, you know, like we were onto it. But it was cold water, cold ice hash, so it wasn't activated. It was a little bit activated. And Dave used to give this guy who had cancer of the pancreas a block of hash this year, just as a present, Christmas, okay, or whatever it was. From last year, he had a big bowl of hash. Give it to him. This guy lasted another 9 years. Another 9 years, cancer of the pancreas. This is just extraordinary. And all he did was eat hash. So what he was eating was a mixture of activated cannabinoids and acidic cannabinoids. A mixture. So if anyone wants to know anything about good news, there's 2 words in the dictionary which will define the next century. One of them is called love. You all know about it. You heard about it today with all of those people that came up on stage. Love. The next most important word is delta-9 tetrahydrocannabingerolic acid. So what I want you to do is, if you've got a phone, I will spell it out and then we will sing it, because at some stage we're going to walk down the street singing this one-word song. And I'm telling you that now that I have started and 3/4 of the way through a musical comedy, and this is one of the songs. So if you can get your phone out, if you can, write it down in your notes, or if you've got a pen, delta-9 tetrahydra cannabi, that's C-A-N-N-A, and everyone knows what bi is, B-I, gerolic, G-E-R OLIC, gerolic acid. So it's delta-9 tetrahydrocannabingerolic acid. This is what you get on the acidic side. When you walk up to a plant which is full of head and you eat it, you are eating, and let me tell you, it cannot escape because you put it in your mouth, okay, and you eat it. You're consuming some 20-odd thousand terpenes, flavonoids, phenoids, all sorts of noids. 20-odd thousand of them. One of them's called humulene. Humulene is a terpenoid which stimulates your own anandamide, your internal cannabis. It stimulates that. And that is your best defense, is your own internal cannabinoid system. That is your best defense. If you don't have acidic form and the activated form, you're getting, what did she say, 140 cannabinoids. If you take the acidic form as well, you double the number. Not only that, but this is how it goes. There are maybe 6 different internal cannabis chemicals. One of them's an anandamide. There's number 2 arachidonyl glycerol, and 4 others which I can't pronounce. So we don't worry about them there. And they think that there's more and more and more of them. Now, if there's 140 cannabinoids, and as the Dr. Deb said, one of those very minute percentage of cannabinoid in that plant, it may do a huge thing for you. but only you, not you or you. You see, we are individuals. None of us have got the same fingerprint. None of us have got the same blood, brain. We've got the same genes. But the genes express themselves, and look at the faces here. They're all different. So you would expect that when you come to fight a disease, you would want the best possible answer. And the best possible answer that I can see is acidic cannabinoids followed along by the activator. That's the THC instead of the THCA. Get them both into you. This cannabigerolic acid, when you put it in your mouth, in the action created by enzymes in your mouth, turns all of the cannabigerolic acid into THCA, CBDA, CBCA, blah, 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 and a little bit of cannabigerol. It's the only one which can activate in your mouth. Now, cannabigerol is a cannabinoid where no bad bacteria in your gut can live with cannabigerol. So if you want to clean up your gut bacteria, you eat the stuff, and you take the oil, you can rub it on, you can smoke it, any way you can ingest it is legitimate, just don't put it near your eyes. The oils that are, they sting, okay? Just don't put that oil near your eyes. Everywhere else, every other orifice, it does not matter. And if you want to bypass I think it's the vagus nerve, then you insert the oil in a capsule up the anus. And you do that. Now, up until around about when we got OH&S and everyone went, "Ooh, no, I'm not going to do that." Every nurse and every doctor knew that you put the stuff up your bum because it misses out this vagus nerve, which it doesn't go through the liver. Everything that you put through your mouth goes through the liver. So, in fact, if you wanted to do what the old people used to do when they had problems, they would put head up their bum. Right? In India. You have a look in some of these little things there, just what they used to do with this stuff. Say again? Fair enough. Yeah, so, look, that's the good news. I reckon it's good news that we can use the acidic and the activated together to get a good result. Now, one of the little stories I've got is this lady who had a headache for 25 years. I gave her CBD oil, I gave her THC oil, I gave her a combination of both, and it dulled the headache. And for God's sake, I gave her head after a matter of 18 months. She said, no, I don't want to eat that, it'll get me really stoned. I said, it will not get you stoned. So she ate this piece of head that big, that round. I pulled it out of the freezer, she ate it, and half an hour, and an hour later, these two people were sitting around the table, and they were both drinking wine where they were sisters. One of them was walking around like this all the time, just for days. And it was cleared up within an hour. That was the acidic molecules compared to the activated. So there are some things which it's going to work really, really well, the acidic molecules, compared to the activated molecules. And I don't know which is what's going to happen. I just don't know. You have to do both, okay? Next thing, if we're going to look at what may be the next thing to look at in the future is the differences in the cannabinoids If you've got a high THC, you're going to have low CBD normally. What did I say? And the other way around. There's two major cannabinoids and everything else is 5%. These two are, 95% between them. I don't know the difference between a cannabidiol plant where you've got 20 to 1 cannabidiol and the 20 to 1 THC. I don't know what it's like when you get the acidic form. I just don't know. And I don't know, and I'd like, if anyone is going to grow this stuff and eat it, as well as take the oil, I'd like to know next time that the Medican conference is on, if you can come here, I'd like to know the results. Okay, so I guess you would like to ask a few questions because, yes, I think you're waiting for a...
Do you need a microphone? I just want to quickly comment. You said delta-9 tetra...
Hydrocannabinol acid.
What does it abbreviate to? Because I'm not sure...
CBGA.
CBGA.
CBGA, yes.
Okay, so just... if the delta-9 tetra version doesn't come up, just look up CBGA, okay?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because I think the tetra part doesn't belong to that word, but he's got it right, it's the CBG. Now, who wants the mic? Okay.
If you were going to be juicing straight plant, would that still sort out the CBGA? Is it going to be modified at all if you're, instead of just like eating heads? So if you're making green smoothies and just using the straight plant, are you getting the CBGA the way you were talking about?
If you do what? Sorry?
If you're juicing. So if you're just having green smoothies with the straight plant...
Oh, smoothies, yes. Okay, so you can get CBGA out of juicing. All right, that's a fair enough thing. And you can put it in the freezer and you don't get busted for having that stuff in your freezer as a juice. But it does reduce the amount of terpenes in it, that's all. When you go up to the head, like a goat, and put it in your mouth, nothing escapes, see? But if you put it through a grinding machine, you don't really know what's happening, and it just warms up a bit, and it's enough to burst the terpenes, and they float off into the atmosphere. But you put them in your mouth, and they're trapped. That's all I say.
We have another question.
Will eating the raw plant in any form, will you still be able to grow it, or would you get picked up?
In America, there's some states that have THCA is identified, and that is an indication that you have had THC. That's what they say. Doesn't really mean anything, but it's not in here, and I don't know. When you do eat the head, right, about 1% of the THCA does drop into THC, but you're talking about 100th of, 20 to 1. So it's less than 1%. It's like hemp, less than hemp. Yeah.
So in short, yes, because the cannabis plant fresh does have some THC in it, albeit 1 or 2%. Your zero tolerance test in Australia will pick it up, sadly. Or maybe not. It's a gamble. Who else would like the mic?
I'd just like to ask a question around the liver. You're talking about everything going through the liver. Is that doing damage to the liver?
She's asking a question about the liver.
Yes, okay. The liver will never be damaged by cannabis. It will be destroyed by things like ice, or a lot of pharmaceuticals, alcohol, and there's a bloody list of them as long as your arm, but not cannabis. Cannabis is something which produces or tries to produce a thing called homeostasis in your body. Now, the man who discovered THC, Professor Raphael Mechoulam, found THC in 1964. He said there must we must have an internal cannabis system. And he went about searching for it, and he found all sorts of discoveries, but in 1998 he found the internal cannabis system, and he called it the endocannabinoid system. He's the man who said this must, and homeostasis, you know what homeostasis means? It means that everything that you can measure within your body is within the normal range. And if it's in the normal range, you don't have disease. No one gets there. We bloody go over the line, below it, and blah, 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 blah. If you're healthy, you go above it and below it all your life. But you don't go far away from it. But if you're not healthy, it's because your endocannabinoid system has been compromised somehow.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, we've got another question from this lady.
This isn't actually a question, this is just a comment to share with all of you guys. My ex-partner has been battling pancreatic cancer for over a year, and he, after speaking to his doctor and his doctor saying that the oil won't do anything for him, he started taking THC and CBD oil, and his tumour markers, the CA19 markers for pancreatic cancer, went from over 1,200 to just over 400 within a couple of weeks.
Yes. How come I'm not surprised? You know, when you've been doing it as long as I have, you go, ho-hum, so he grew another leg. I don't know. I'm very pleased that the man is getting better.
So we're hearing that cannabis does treat cancer, and it's very useful in liver cancer as well, for that question about liver. Okay, another question?
I'd just like to ask about hydration, because I never see it referred to, but I find it's really important. And I've heard of people getting into trouble taking lots of cannabis, but not matching the hydration.
Yeah, normally if you have too much to smoke at night, you wake up with a very dry mouth, okay? It is, you are a little bit dehydrated, and the first thing you do is go and have a big glass of water, and you come good 10 minutes later. But you don't need much more than what you would normally need. It's just that you feel like it. It's a bit of a strange one. It does interfere with your mind if you've got THC in there. It doesn't do that with CBD. Now, I don't know whether anyone knows too much about these synthetic cannabinoids, but there is an order of the cannabinoids, and the synthetic cannabinoids is dronabinol is the name of synthetic THC. One of the side effects is death. Yeah, it's called medicine. By the government. Okay, so another one of the side effects of this is an increase in your existing psychosis or developing a new one. That's just one of the side effects. There's vomiting, diarrhea, you can't pee, you get constipated and then diarrhea, but it just goes on and on and on, these side effects. So, what are they doing when you can look at eating cannabis and there are absolutely no side effects at all? None. I tried to eat as much as I could one day and all I got was bloody indigestion. Nothing else. You know, I ate too much of one thing. Water. If you drink 6 litres of water, 50% of the audience would die. But before you died, you would have a very, very intense psychotropic experience. So water is psychotropic. It's just a matter of the dose. Everything is psychotropic, if you have enough of it. Yeah.
Any more questions, or are we reaching the end? Okay, Malcolm's a very interesting man to talk to, and he will be available, of course, afterwards. Are you finished, Malcolm?
I'm finished, yes.
Finished. I'll sit with him while we just wait for our next guest speaker, who's about 1 minute away. He's just coming up the stairs. And that'll be Andrew Cavasalis.
Oh, yeah, Andrew, yes.
Who was instrumental, in fact, in getting hemp seeds legalised in Australia this year. So a lot of the opposition about hemp seeds, of course, is that it interferes with your saliva testing. And I think on the subject of liver, just going back to that interesting question, don't forget there are ways that you can potentiate your cannabis to your body. For example, eating mangoes and soy lecithins and things like that, Malcolm.
Yes, and there's so many things like turmeric and all of these things which stimulate your own internal cannabis system. If you think about 80% of your homeostasis is controlled by the endocannabinoid system, what the hell are we doing not concentrating on that?
Right. Malcolm's going to... Andrew's coming up on the stage. Here he is. A little cough and he's on the stage. Everybody give a warm greeting and farewell to Malcolm, greeting to Andrew. Andrew's a regular speaker, so I'll let him introduce himself. I just gave a brief introduction about the hemp seeds and how I feel you were instrumental in getting that legalised in Australia. I do give some kudos to you, Coach, all part of the team.
All right. Yeah, thanks everyone. Yeah, my name's Andrew Cavasalis, not to be confused with Andrew Catalaris, who is the real Andrew who put in the applications to get hemp seed food up and going. But, you know, everything's a long story. And I don't, you know, when I talk about medical cannabis, I try to give people an insight into what's really going on. Why isn't medical cannabis going? What is medical cannabis? What are they really doing overseas? What is, you know, a prescription medical cannabis?